ANORA is a movie about a stripper who falls in love with the son of a Russian billionaire gangster. Now, whether this movie deserves 5 Oscars or not is to be debated. I personally don't think it is a masterpiece of the ages, but is it a masterpiece? In my view, this movie has lost something by winning the Oscars. It's almost like the Oscars raised the expectations so high that then it's supposed to be something beyond imagining. If this movie just came out and didn't win the Oscars, people would love this movie for what it is, and there is a lot to be loved here. I'm just gonna go and say it, I think this movie is a freaking brilliantly crafted heavy drama. If not the best of the year, then one of the best easily. After just seeing the movie, I am tempted to say it might even be a masterpiece. Now, based on the premise, you would think this movie is of a certain kind. And you can kind of guess the repertoire of probable endings by just hearing the idea. The movie begins in a very predictable way and gives you exactly what you are expecting to have. Although I do think the delivery is relatively fresh and in some ways surprising. The one thing I like about the beginning is how the Russian kid is not what you would expect. I mean, he seems like a genuinely goofy and a funny guy. He doesn't seem like some fake asshole who is just pulling one on the lady, nor does he come off as some naive imbecile who is actually falling in love either. There is a realism in this movie that makes the first act work. I really love the portrayal of the main characters. Now, whether Mikey Madison should have won an Oscar for it is debatable, but both of them do deliver truly remarkable performances. Mark Edelstein plays the young rich brat, and as an older man, it is funny to watch his performance. I think he manages to bring the Gen Z to the screen in such a way that is believable. How these guys meet and how they behave in the beginning is probably exactly how it would go between an immature rich brat and his escort. But once again, what I love about the whole thing is that he's not being a dick. He's just having fun and being careless. There is no drama and no bullshit. It is simply what it is. And I respect the writer and director Sean Baker for this as a viewer, for taking this route. I also found the fuck scenes to be hilarious, where the Gen Z gamer guy is rapiding the shit out of it. Mikey Madison plays the stripper, and I think she does a brilliant job. She at the same time produces the girl from the Hood's act while delivering on the emotional side of things. It's like you know how she feels despite the tough lady act, but she doesn't overdo anything either, which is good. Every scene she's in, she delivers exactly what the script expects of her, to the point, and I don't say this in a negative way. She won the Oscar for the Best Actress. I haven't seen all the nominated movies, so I can't say if she deserved to win, but I am willing to go as far as to say that I do think she should have been nominated. It is a brilliant performance that reaches its final peak in the very end, in the last scene of the movie, at which point you realize this woman can act. The emotions in the final scene are so believable and strong that if you are the kind of a person who cries while watching movies, her performance has the power to do that to you. Whatever you want to say about this movie, whatever you want to say about this movie winning so many Oscars, whatever you want to say about her winning the Oscars, it has to be admitted that she's by this performance alone a true actress. Now, that being said, while the beginning of the movie is kind of predictable, and while even when things start happening, it's kind of what you may have expected. Like in the sense that the movie does take one of the paths you were basically waiting for out of a few basic options. That there is something else in these scenes that appear that are not what you might expect. At first you will think it is just some dry humor, but then as time goes forward, you begin to realize that this movie is actually trying to show you something deep about the human nature. After some time, you know what will happen in the end, and then it happens. However, there is a portion of your soul that somewhere deep inside has made notes about what is being shown to you, and as the end draws closer, you begin to secretly hope that this movie would, in the end, be about the thing that you didn't expect. That it would be about the thing that has been shown to you the whole time. Make no mistake, this movie has 2 endings. It is at the same time predictable, but the way how it is portrayed, it is actually surprising. When the movie comes to an end in its final conclusion, you will realize that the writer of this movie, Sean Baker, wasn't trying to tell some generic story of a stripper falling for a billionaire and having expectable endings. which the ending is on paper. No. This is a story about something else entirely. Something I will not spoil for you here. Something I would rather hold as a secret so that you could experience yourself. Once you get to the very end of this movie, you will realize why this movie needed to be made. It is for the simple reason that it is food for your soul and it brings the reality of life to you. Something you may have not been willing to admit for yourself, something you may have secretly hoped to realize but have dared not, because it hurts. Now, the real guy in this movie that I don't know if anybody has talked about is the actor called Yura Borisov, who plays a guy called Iger. As much as this whole movie resides on the shoulders of Mikey Madison, it is Yura Borisov's performance that is the crucial one. I can tell you right now that if this guy would have failed in his job, this whole movie wouldn't have worked. He plays the unassuming random tough guy so well that it is unbelievable. His reactions are so genuine and feel so real, but in such a subtle way. Once again, it is so not over the top that it makes the whole thing work like magic. While there are no big emotions, no big trauma, I mean the guy basically does very little the whole movie, there is a power behind every action, every silence, and every slight facial expression. He's one of the most believable, everyday man guys ever depicted on screen. A performance that most of the people don't even realize because it is so unimaginably normal. This is literally how a random thug who is at the same time afraid of his bosses while at the same time has a soul would act. I mean, he wouldn't do anything, just like the guy does not, outside of offering a cigarette, of course. But even then, he does it in such a natural fashion. Not trying to be a cool guy or anything, and not acting to not be a cool guy either. I mean, the delivery is pure brilliance, and the stupid thing is that Sean Baker has basically made the whole story be dependent on this one guy's capability in just being a normal guy on screen, and it is successful. Now, does it deserve 5 Oscars? The movie doesn't do anything out of the ordinary for most of the movie. The plot moves forward in an expected way, and while there are some hilarious scenes, they are not exactly so great that the movie would become a masterpiece of the ages. The movie, for the most part, simply gets away by being entertaining enough. Does it deserve an Oscar for the best script? I doubt it. Maybe in a really bad year in the Oscars. The best motion picture of the year? Not really. Best achievement in directing? For sure's fucking not. There is nothing in this movie's directing that should be applauded. Once again, it is only good enough to make the movie work, but it is nothing special. The actress? That's the only Oscar I might be willing to give depending on the year. Does Sean Baker and the actors who delivered this movie deserve to be given a special award for moving your soul? For fucking cheers. Does he need to be applauded for having the emotional intelligence to produce such a real story both on paper and on screen? Yes. Do the actors need to be praised for bringing his vision alive? Of course. Do I regret having seen this movie? No. But I would have regret not having seen this movie if I knew how much it would teach me about life. So why did this movie need to be made? Why did Sean Baker decide to take so much of his time to make this movie? I think it was because he wanted to tell us something. I think these kind of movies are what humanity needs, and I am happy that this kind of a movie was made. In recent years, cinema has gone through a slow and painful death. I think ANORA is one of the rare bright lights in the darkness. If it would be the only thing we had, I would take it over most of the bullshit that is being produced today. Now, did the Academy make a strategic decision in giving this movie so many Oscars? Probably. Are they ashamed for having ruined it for all of us for so many years? I hope. Does giving ANORA Oscars make it all better? I don't think so. But whatever Hollywood is doing, whatever they are doing at the Academy Awards, it is not ANORA's fault. ANORA was a deep and meaningful movie that all people should watch, and that's the end of it. It is ironic how ANORA has turned into such fuzz by the Academy Awards, when it is in fact the very movie that tells the story of reaching too high. ANORA the movie has the same fate as ANORA the character in the movie. But in reality, this is the story of modern Hollywood. As dark as it sounds, at the very least they had the balls to give the Oscars to a movie that told their own story. I hope they would learn something from it. I just want to end this review by saying once again that all of this bullshit has nothing to do with the actuality of the movie. ANORA is a movie that tells the story of a stripper who wanted something more for herself. It would be easy to see her as just a stripper among others, but the truth is that we all want to be something more than what we are, and have something more we can have. And in most cases, what you truly need as a person is rarely what you want. Deep down inside of us, we are all desperate, and we just can't admit it to ourselves.